very warm welcome to my dear students of classes 9 and 10. Today we are here to talk about a very important writing skill that we have to attempt. The question appears in section B of writing and grammar. That is none other than story writing. Well, story writing carries 10 marks and the word limit is 150 to 200. So let us start discussing about the same. Well, you have to remember the three most important parts of a story. Number one is the exposition. Exposition is also known as introduction. It is how you introduce your story. You have to remember that it should be interesting and nothing too very far-fetched or very abrupt. Second and the most important is the plot building or the climax. You have to create a certain problem situation. And the last is the anticlimax, or also known as denouement. So let us now talk about the very little details of the same. So firstly, what you have to remember is the introduction. Write it in a very proper way so that you can create interest in the mind of the reader. The introduction, if it starts with once upon a time, you have to remember that you have to use only and only past tense. Even in general, it is recommended that you should use past tense, because generally if you start with once upon a time and then you use present tense in that, it makes no sense. Second thing is the character. Minimum one character to be written. If you want to use more, then maximum 2 to 3. You're not writing a novel, right? So don't stretch it too much and introduce a number of characters. Third is the plot. The plot should be a problem situation. Create a problem situation. For example, you're talking about a burglar that has broken into your house. So that is a situation that you have created in a certain experience that you're trying to say. And then the next step comes the solution. The solution must be very logical. Do not make it completely absurd or something that has no logic. For example, you start with a certain time when there was a power cut in the house, or there was a power cut in the locality, and then you suddenly use a certain sentence that says that you were watching television. Now that is not really logical, isn't it? So do not use such logic. It should be very logical and very understandable. Then the next comes your conclusion. The conclusion must be very proper. It is as important as introduction. The conclusion also, it should not end abruptly. It should have a proper message, or at least something that we can have, like we can use in general. So these are the most important steps of story writing. A few errors that students often commit are: number one, you tend to make grammatical errors. Now you cannot afford to do that. When you are writing a certain creative thing, you have to remember that that should have a proper grammatical sequence. Generally, the sentence sequence is subject, verb and object. Another thing is, again, as I repeat that same sentence which I told you earlier, that is logic. It should have a logical sequence of events. It should not be totally illogical. And also, you often forget to write a title to the story. Now, writing a title is really important. Generally, in the marking scheme, we have 6 marks for content, we have fluency, we have 2 marks, and accuracy, we have 2 marks. But remember this, at times, the title is also given 1 mark. Suppose you lack in putting a proper fluent text, or you lack in a certain thing in the content, then your title can fetch some marks for you. So remember, always put a title to the story. So this is all about story writing. I hope that you will be able to write better stories. Keep learning.